The cold had teeth that night. It bit through fabric, through skin, through bone. Snow drifted down in slow, silent sheets, coating the empty park in white. But the girl curled on the wooden bench felt none of its beauty. Her body trembled violently, each shiver weaker than the last. Her fingers were stiff and red, barely able to hold the thin coat wrapped around her shoulders. It wasn't enough. It had never been enough. Her lips had turned blue nearly 20 minutes ago. People passed, boots crunching on snow, laughter, the distant hum of traffic. No one stopped. One couple glanced at her, whispered something to each other, then kept walking. A man in a wool scarf slowed for half a second before deciding she wasn't his problem. To them, she was just another unfortunate stranger swallowed by the winter night. But the truth was far crueler. Only hours earlier, she had still believed she had a home. Her stomach twisted painfully, empty for almost 2 days. The hunger mixed with the cold until she couldn't tell where one ended and the other began. Her eyelashes were dusted with frost now, tiny crystals clinging to her skin as her vision blurred at the edges. She tried to move her fingers. They didn't respond. A quiet panic flickered in her chest. Not fear of dying, just the realization that no one would notice if she did. Her head tilted slowly against the frozen wood of the bench, breaths coming shallow and uneven. The world felt distant, muffled, like she was already slipping somewhere far away. What she didn't know was that someone had been watching her for the last 10 minutes. Across the snow-covered path, partially hidden beneath the shadow of a bare oak tree, a black luxury car idled silently. Exhaust curled into the freezing air like ghostly smoke, headlights off, engine barely audible beneath the wind. Inside, a man sat motionless. His gaze was locked on the girl. Sharp, he had noticed focused, her the moment his car turned into the park entrance. A small figure hunched against the storm, alone in a place where no one should have been alone at this hour. At first he assumed she was waiting for someone. But no one came. Minutes passed. Then more. And she didn't move. Something about that stillness had pulled his attention in a way he didn't like to admit. He was not a man who involved himself in strangers' problems. Compassion was inefficient, risky, weak. Yet he was still watching. In the back seat beside him, one of his men shifted slightly. "Boss," the driver said carefully, glancing in the rearview mirror. "We're going to be late." No response. Outside, the girl's body slumped sideways. Her shoulder slipped off the bench. Then the rest of her followed. She hit the snow with a soft, lifeless thud. The man's eyes hardened. The decision happened instantly. Before anyone in the car could speak again, the door opened. Cold air rushed in. And he stepped out. Tall, broad-shouldered, wrapped in a perfectly tailored black wool coat that looked untouched by the storm. Snowflakes landed on his dark hair, melting slowly against the heat of his skin as he walked toward her with long, deliberate strides. Danger clung to him like a second shadow. Power, authority, violence barely restrained beneath calm control. He stopped beside her motionless body, looking down. Up close she looked even smaller. Fragile. Her face pale beneath the frost, lashes clumped together with ice, lips trembling faintly with shallow breaths. Still alive. But not for long. Something unfamiliar twisted in his chest. Without hesitation he shrugged off his coat, a garment worth more than most people's monthly salary, and dropped to one knee beside her. The thick wool wrapped around her shoulders, trapping what little warmth remained in her body. His gloved hand slid gently beneath her head, lifting her into his arms against his chest. A faint breath touched his neck. Behind him, his men stared in stunned silence. They had seen this man order executions without blinking. They had seen him dismantle entire criminal operations with a single phone call. But they had never seen him like this. "Start the car," he said quietly. The command carried absolute authority. By morning, the people who had abandoned her would wish they had never been born. Lena had never imagined her life would collapse this quickly. 3 weeks ago, she still had a routine. A small apartment with peeling paint but warm lighting. A job she didn't love, but worked hard to keep. Groceries in the fridge. Plans for the future that felt simple and achievable. Now she had none of it. The cold wooden bench beneath her back felt like stone. But it wasn't the first uncomfortable surface she had slept on recently. 2 nights earlier, she had been curled on the threadbare carpet of a budget motel room, the last place her remaining cash could afford. Before that, she had spent hours sitting in a bus station pretending she was waiting for someone, just to avoid being told to leave. Her stomach cramped again, sharp and hollow. She pressed her arms tighter around herself, trying to trap warmth that didn't exist. Earlier that evening, before the temperature dropped this low, she had walked into a convenience store with the coins she'd been saving in her pocket. She had counted them twice in the aisle, cheeks burning with embarrassment, before realizing they still weren't enough for even the cheapest sandwich. So she had left. Outside, she found a discarded newspaper near a trash bin and wrapped it around her legs beneath her jeans. It helped for maybe 10 minutes before the cold seeped through again, relentless and unforgiving. A group of friends passed by the park entrance laughing, their breath forming white clouds in the air. One of the girls leaned inside her chest, twist painfully. Not jealousy. Loss. Just a month ago, she had leaned into someone the same way. Ethan. The memory hit harder than the cold ever could. Her throat tightened as flashes replayed in her mind. The day everything fell apart. The accusations at work. The manager's disappointed expression. The security footage that supposedly showed her accessing company accounts she had never touched. And Ethan standing there beside them. Silent. Not defending her. Not meeting her eyes. Later that night, she had learned the truth in the cruelest way possible. The missing money had been traced back to accounts connected to him. When she confronted him, panic flashed across his face for only a second before it turned into anger. He had denied everything, then blamed her. Told his parents she was unstable, manipulative, trying to ruin him. They believed him. Of course they did. His family had money, influence, connections. She had nothing but her word. Within 48 hours she lost her job. Within 72, she lost her apartment. And within a week, Ethan had changed the locks on the place they shared. "You're not my responsibility," he had said through the door while she stood in the hallway with her suitcase. "I can't have someone like you around me." Someone like you. The words still echoed in her mind. Her own parents couldn't help. Medical bills from her father's illness had drained everything they had. They cried on the phone apologizing, promising they wished things were different. She told them she understood. She lied. Because the truth was harder to admit. She was alone. Completely alone. The wind picked up again, cutting through the park with a howl that rattled the bare branches overhead. Lena curled tighter on the bench, her body shaking violently now. Her teeth chattered uncontrollably, jaw aching from the constant movement. She tried rubbing her hands together, slowly from her fingertips up her arms, heavy and terrifying. Her vision blurred. Snowflakes landed on her lashes, melting into cold droplets that slid down her temples like tears. She blinked slowly, fighting the exhaustion pulling at her consciousness. "Don't sleep." The warning echoed faintly in her mind. Something she had heard somewhere before about hypothermia. But her body didn't listen. Memories surfaced instead. Her mother laughing in the kitchen years ago. Her father teaching her how to ride a bicycle. Ethan smiling at her the day they met. Moments from a life that felt like it belonged to someone else now. Her breathing slowed. The trembling weakened. And for the first time all night, the cold didn't feel quite as sharp. A strange warmth began spreading across her shoulders. Soft. Heavy. Comforting. Her fading mind barely registered it. The last thing Lena felt before darkness pulled her under was something warm being wrapped gently around her. The cold didn't arrive all at once. It crept. First into Lena's fingers, a dull numbness that made it harder to feel the newspaper she had wrapped around her hands. Then into her toes, a deep ache that pulsed with every weak heartbeat. Then into her chest, squeezing her lungs until each breath felt thin and sharp. The wind shifted across the park, carrying tiny needles of snow that stung her cheeks. Streetlights glowed through the falling flakes, halos of pale orange in the darkness. Somewhere in the distance, laughter echoed. People heading home, warm and safe. No one looked at her. She tried to curl tighter on the bench, pulling her knees toward her chest, but her body wasn't responding the way she wanted. Her muscles felt slow, heavy, disconnected. Her hands wouldn't grip properly anymore. A strange calm began to replace the panic that scared her more than the cold. Her vision blurred at the edges, light smearing into streaks. She blinked hard, trying to focus on something. A passing car. A tree branch. The cracked pavement below. Her thoughts drifted. Maybe it would be easier to just sleep. The idea slipped into her mind softly, dangerously comforting. No more hunger. No more humiliation. No more rejection. Just quiet. Her body tilted. She didn't even realize she was falling until her shoulder hit the edge of the bench, and her weight slid sideways. Snow met her cheek as she collapsed onto the frozen ground beside it. For a moment, she couldn't feel anything at all. Not the cold. Not the pain. Not even fear. Just emptiness. A few meters away, inside the shadow of a black luxury sedan parked along the curb, a man watched. He had been watching for 10 minutes. Kang Min-jae stood with his hands in the pockets of his long dark coat, posture relaxed, expression unreadable. Snow collected lightly on his shoulders, but he didn't brush it away. His eyes remained fixed on the figure by the bench. One of his men shifted uneasily beside him. "Boss, we should leave. The meeting starts in 20 minutes. No response. Min-jae's gaze didn't move. Another subordinate spoke, more cautiously. "It's just a homeless woman." Still nothing. To anyone who knew him, the silence itself was strange. Kang Min-jae was not a man who wasted time. Every minute of his day was calculated, scheduled, controlled. He didn't linger. He didn't hesitate. He certainly didn't stand in the snow watching strangers. Yet he hadn't moved. Something about her posture had caught his attention when they first arrived. The unnatural stillness, the way her body curled too tightly against itself, the faint tremor running through her shoulders. Now she was on the ground. His jaw tightened slightly. "Boss," his lieutenant tried again, quieter this time. "It's not our concern." That sentence was normally true. Nothing outside his operations was his concern. But as Min-jae watched pressed against the inside of his chest, not emotion exactly, but a disturbance. A fracture in his usual detachment. A memory flickered. Snow. Cold air. Someone smaller than him shivering. He shut the thought down instantly. Irrelevant. He turned slightly as if to leave. Then Lena's body stopped moving. Not shivering anymore. Not adjusting. Just still. The world seemed to pause. His men were already opening the car door when Min-jae spoke. "Wait." One word. They froze. He stepped forward. Each movement was deliberate, but there was something different beneath it, a lack of calculation. No strategic benefit. No logical gain. No reason connected to power or business. Just movement. Snow crunched under his shoes as he crossed the distance toward her. Up close, she looked worse. Her lips were pale. Her eyelashes dusted with frost. Her fingers curled stiffly against the ground. He crouched beside her, reaching out. Her skin was ice cold. A sharp tension ran through him. "She's hypothermic," one of his men muttered behind him. Min-jae shrugged off his coat immediately, a rare, expensive garment, and wrapped it around her shoulders, pulling the fabric tight to trap warmth. Her body reacted faintly, a weak tremor passing through her. Alive. Barely. For a fraction of a second, he hesitated. This was the moment where calculation should have returned. Leave her. Call emergency services. Walk away. Instead, he slid one arm under her back and the other beneath her knees, lifting her effortlessly off the ground. His men exchanged startled glances. He never touched strangers. Never. As he carried her toward the car, snow swirling around them, something unfamiliar settled into his expression. Not softness but certainty. A decision already made. "Call the doctor," he ordered. "Urgent." Absolute. The car door opened. And for the first time in years, Kang Min-jae acted without calculation. The warmth came before the awareness. Lena's body registered it first, a sudden barrier against the cold pressing into her skin. Something heavy wrapped around her shoulders, trapping faint heat close to her chest. Her trembling intensified briefly as her nerves reacted. Then movement. Strong arms lifting her. Her head lolled weakly against something solid, the scent of clean fabric and faint cologne drifting through her fading senses. She tried to open her eyes, but her lashes felt weighed down with ice. Voices echoed around her, muffled and distant. "Boss! Start the car. Now!" The command cut through the air with sharp authority. Footsteps rushed. Doors opened. Someone moved quickly ahead of them. Even in her half-conscious state, Lena could feel the difference in the way she was being held. Careful. Steady. Protective. Whoever carried her wasn't struggling with her weight. His grip was secure, controlled, almost practiced. Snow crunched beneath his shoes as he moved. The cold air shifted to something warmer as they approached the vehicle. A rush of heat brushed her face when a door opened, followed by the soft sound of leather seats as she was placed gently inside. The interior warmth hit her like a wave. Her body reacted instantly, muscles twitching, fingers spasming faintly as circulation fought to return. "Turn the heat up," the man ordered. "It's already higher." Buttons clicked. Air vents hummed louder. Someone pulled a small medical kit from beneath a seat, but Lena barely registered it. The only thing grounding her drifting awareness was the hand around hers. Large, warm, steady. He was holding her fingers between his palms, rubbing them slowly to generate heat. Not rough. Not impatient. Just methodical care. Outside the car, she heard another voice hesitant. "Boss, the meeting. Cancel it." Silence followed. No one argued. The engine started smoothly, the vehicle gliding forward through the snowy streets. Lena's eyelids fluttered. She saw darkness above her, the ceiling of the car. Then movement beside her. A silhouette leaning close. Broad shoulders. Dark hair. A face partially shadowed by the dim interior lighting. A stranger. Fear flickered weakly in her chest. Her lips parted, dry and trembling. "Why?" The word barely came out, more breath than sound. The man leaned closer, close enough that she could feel warmth radiating from him. His voice, when he answered, was low and calm. "Because you're freezing." Simple. Direct. But something in the way he said it, without hesitation, without judgment, cut through her confusion. Her eyes slipped closed again, exhaustion dragging her back under. But this time, she wasn't alone in the cold. The car moved smoothly through the city streets, headlights slicing through falling snow, carrying her away from the park bench where she had nearly disappeared unnoticed. An hour ago, she had been invisible. Now, wrapped in the coat of a man whose name alone caused fear in powerful circles, she was under the protection of one of the most dangerous men in the city. Lena's eyelids fluttered against the soft glow of warm light. The chill of the park bench was gone, replaced by the gentle heat of a room that seemed impossibly quiet after the chaos outside. She blinked, taking in the polished obsidian walls, the flicker of a fire in a recessed hearth, and the heavy blankets cocooning her trembling body. Every breath she drew smelled faintly of sandalwood and something metallic, like rain on heated stone. She tried to sit up, muscles weak and stiff, but the weight of the blankets pressed down, a comforting restraint she had never known. A tray with steaming soup rested nearby. Her hands reached for it instinctively, but a voice cut softly through the room. "You're safe here." The words made her pause. Her eyes moved slowly to the source. A man sat nearby, across a laptop with the focus of someone accustomed to total control. Dark eyes lifted briefly, calm, commanding. Yet when they met hers, there was no intimidation, only measured attention. Her chest rose and fell, confusion and relief battling for dominance. I don't understand. Why are you helping me?" He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he closed the laptop gently and stood, moving with a fluid precision as he poured the soup into a bowl. Carefully, deliberately, he handed it to her. "You're not a burden," he said, his voice steady but carrying an edge she couldn't name. Her throat tightened. She wanted to protest, to apologize for all the trouble, for the inconvenience she had caused. I didn't mean to," he interrupted, irritation flashing subtly beneath his calm exterior. "You are not a burden," he repeated, this time firmer, leaving no room for argument. For the first time, Lena felt a twinge of safety, not just from the physical warmth, but from the assurance that she was being seen and valued in a way that had been foreign her entire life. Her story poured out in hesitant fragments. The false accusations at work, the betrayal of a boyfriend who had once promised loyalty, the apartment she had lost, the nights spent shivering on cold streets with nothing but the remnants of her dignity to cling to. He listened. Not a flicker of impatience crossed his face. But beneath the composed exterior, a dark flicker of rage surfaced, one she could feel in the taut line of his jaw and the slight narrowing of his eyes. She had never seen such controlled fury directed at injustice. Moments later, one of his men stepped into the room, a tablet in hand. "Sir, we have updates on the man who was involved in her case," he said cautiously. Min-jae glanced at it briefly, his expression unreadable, then returned his gaze to Lena. It was clear, he already knew everything. Her ex-boyfriend's lies, the manipulation, the theft, the implication hit her before she could even form the words. He didn't just have the power to protect her. He had the reach to investigate, to confront, to control outcomes that ordinary people couldn't even imagine. He leaned closer, voice low but carrying an unmistakable weight. "The people who did this to you will answer for it." The words hung in the room, heavy and unyielding. A promise, an unspoken threat, a foreshadowing of what was to come. Lena felt her heart pound, a mixture of fear, awe and a fragile glimmer of hope. She realized in that moment that the life she had thought lost was only just beginning, under the protection of a man whose power could shift the world, starting with the injustice she had endured. The penthouse door clicked open, the sound slicing through the quiet luxury of the evening. Lena froze, the faint hum of the city below barely registering over the sudden spike of fear in her chest. A familiar voice called her name, sharp, accusing, full of entitlement. Her ex. The man who had stripped away her stability, her confidence, her home. "I know what you've done," he barked, stepping inside uninvited. "You stole money from me, from us." Lena shrank instinctively, but before she could react further, the figure beside her moved. Kang Min-jae. The air shifted immediately. His presence filled the room, a wall of cold authority. One glance, and the intruder's bravado faltered. Her ex grabbed her arm, attempting to drag her toward him. Panic surged in Lena, but before she could struggle, Min-jae stepped forward. "Touch her again," he said low, deliberate. "And you lose that hand." The words cut through the room like a blade. Silence followed, thick and suffocating. Every heartbeat pounded in Lena's ears as she realized the extent of his control. His rage was contained, precise but absolute. The danger he exuded made it clear. He could dismantle anyone who threatened her. Her ex stumbled back. He hadn't faced a man like this before. Someone whose power was matched by a willingness to protect. Minutes later, after the intruder was removed and security ensured, Lena sat quietly on the edge of the couch, wrapped in a soft blanket. She looked up at him, vulnerability threading her voice. Why are you helping me?" He leaned back in the chair, dark eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her stomach tighten. The usual cold detachment softened, just slightly. "Because no one should be left alone in the cold," he said. Simple words, heavy with meaning. Her lips parted, uncertainty flickering. "Even me?" He tilted his head, a shadow of a smile touching the corners of his mouth. "Especially you." A pause stretched between them, electric and intimate. She realized she had never felt this seen, this protected, by anyone in her life. Fear, awe, and an unfamiliar warmth mingled within her chest. For a fleeting moment, she considered leaving. She didn't want to bring trouble into his world, didn't want to be a complication. But before she could rise, he stepped closer, voice soft but firm. "Stay." One word. Simple. Commanding. Irresistible. Lena froze, a shiver running down her spine. The tension between them was almost tangible, and for the first time, she allowed herself to trust completely. From the shadows of his controlled demeanor, a new resolve surfaced. He wasn't just protecting her tonight. He was preparing to punish the people who had hurt her. The promise hung in the room, unspoken yet undeniable. Justice would come, and the world that had abandoned her would soon feel the fire of his wrath. Crisp and clear. As Lena watched the news unfold, her ex's face filled the screen, the truth laid bare for all to see. Bank statements, surveillance footage, testimonies, everything he had hidden came rushing into the light. His family's name was in tatters, his lies dismantled, relief and disbelief. Her name, once smeared and forgotten, was finally cleared. Every humiliation, every moment of despair, now had justice trailing behind it. From the penthouse, Kang Min-jae observed quietly, arms crossed, the faintest shadow of a smile on his face. Everything had been orchestrated. Every move calculated. But this time, he hadn't done it for power, he had done it for her. A few weeks later, Lena walked into her new apartment, the warmth of the space settling over her like a soft blanket. A job opportunity awaited her, one she had earned legitimately, her talents finally recognized. Her finances were secure, and for the first time in months, she felt the weight of worry lifting from her shoulders. On a small table, a coat lay folded, heavy black, and lined with crimson silk. Kang Min-jae had insisted. A reminder, he said simply, that cold nights are no longer yours to endure alone. Later that evening, they returned to the park bench where it had all begun. Snow dusted the ground lightly, but the chill was gone, replaced by a quiet serenity. Lena sat, wrapped in her new coat, warmth spreading through her body. He stood beside her, tall and steady, as he had on that night, but now there was no fear, only presence. He draped the coat carefully over her shoulders again, just as he had months ago. But this time, her lips curved into a smile, eyes meeting his with gratitude and a hint of something deeper. "You saved me," she whispered, voice trembling with emotion. He shook his head gently, a rare softness in his dark eyes. "No. You survived. I just found you." For a long moment, the city breathed around them. The wind that had once been so cruel now carried only the faint scent of pine and promise. The night she had been left freezing on a park bench became the night her life truly began. Her past was no longer a cage. Her future stretched wide, bright and alive. Feared by many was now her protector, her ally, and perhaps something more. For Lena, every shiver, every tear, every lonely night had led to this: survival, vindication, and a life reborn.